Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It has been a while, I know, sorry. I will try to be more consistent with the videos. I'm still figuring out how to make it work with my current schedule. Anyway, enough of that, we have a lot to talk about. So let's get to it, but before we do, please could you consider subscribing and liking the video? Please, I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers guys, and hopefully by the end of the year, we're gonna hit the 1k subscribers. Let's go. Baru's last bid after 3 games is the same as Izagi's after 3 games. I guess this is a way for the authors to tell us that both players are in the same tier now. People have been sleeping on Sendo, but I tell you, that guy can be useful as a second striker. If you put Sendo to support a better striker and leaving him free to feed off the scraps, my guy can't do nothing but shine. I am so happy for him. 36 million to his name after 3 games. That's an improvement. Aiku and Aryu are the only Ubers players that have played 4 games, and their final bids show just how much they have improved during this New Egoist League. Aiku went from 15 million to 60 million, and Aryu went from 5 million to 45 million. Nico has improved beyond expectations with such a high bid after 3 games, 40 million. It is safe to say that Ego will have a lot of capable players for the U20 World Cup. Also, the final video of the Ubers vs Bastard München game analysis is dropping soon. As I was also preparing materials for the analysis for Bastard München against Barca and Bastard München against Manchester City, the video got delayed. It shall be out in 2 weeks roughly. Okay guys, this is a quick one. I've talked about it on Twitter already, as it is easier for me to share my thoughts there, so make sure to give me a follow. Nagi is not about to come back now. It's too early. He's been on a downward spiral and going to therapy through talking to all his nemesis. But he's yet to talk to the guy that once made him see football as something that could potentially be fun. I'm talking about Bachira. So I am convinced that Nagi will finally hit rock bottom against Barca. I mean, what sort of character development will it be if Nagi simply had to borrow another ego from Rio, like again and again? It's like we are stuck in the time loop. Rio, on the other hand, may finally show his true self soon. I thought it would be against Ubers, but with 1 game left, I hope he finally scores against Barca, thus scoring his only goal in the New Egoist League. I mean, we have been given crumbs right now. Like, we're finally getting Ego and Noah on screen and we don't have the backstory. Like, look at their dynamic. I know I wasn't the only one hyped about seeing them together for the first time, if I'm not mistaken, right? On screen, same panel, same place, same room. Anyway, nothing to review here as I want to keep the video short, but Ego's speech in chapter 247 clearly shows us who may be the game protagonist on Bastard München's side. This gonna be interesting, guys. As of now, I'm sorry Izagi fans, myself included, Izagi cannot realistically be considered top 2 strikers of Blue Lock. I have Rin and Baru ahead of him. I might even add Shido. Like, Izagi has improved tremendously, but I firmly believe he still lacks certain things to be the best striker. However, when it comes to being the best player, I believe Izagi is easily top 1. It's like Snuffy being the better player but Noah being the better striker. Izagi is for me the current best player among our Blue Lock boys. In the PXG game, I cannot see Izagi coming out as the best in terms of strikers' abilities. However, I still believe he will get the Man of the Match award due to his work rate and his obsessiveness with winning, and the fact that Izagi is not limited to only one path to victory. Like he said himself, he can win by assisting a teammate, he can win by making sure that he communicates with his teammates, and if Izagi's evolution is anything to go by, he will simply dominate the field albeit not as a striker. Also, the authors have done a good job at hiding what it means now that Izagi is the king of the team, as he scored the most goals against Ubers. My theory is that every Bayern München player now has to collaborate with Izagi and the other Blue Lock boys. So do not be surprised if Grim or Ness passes the ball to other Blue Lock players. For example, I can see a scenario where Ness and Hiyori link up down the midfield. It is not about choosing a side anymore. Izagi is the king, which means Bayern München now has two patterns, the Kaiser system and the Blue Lock way. Players will be forced to pass the ball to whoever has the most hit in front of the goal. It could be Kaiser, it could be Kunigami, it could be Izagi, it could be whoever. If we use our usual sweat scaling system, after the game against Barca, every PXG player is shown to be sweating buckets, all except one, Charles. Is he next gen 11 level? Reminder, we have seen Ness sweating buckets during the Ubers game, so the sweat scaling suggests that Charles might be better than Ness. Some of you may laugh at this, but allow me to provide other arguments. Do you guys really remember FC Barca? Like the way they played? I'm talking about the team whose defense did not give Bayern München strikers much space, although everyone was moving to maximize Kaiser's chances of scoring. You could clearly see, if you go back and reread that game, Barca was able to follow up with anything Bayern München threw at them by having the goal threats always tightly marked. This means that every time Kaiser and Kunigami had to create space for themselves, they either had to do it with physical abilities or with their technique, or sometimes both. Not even once do we see a striker from Bayern München have the ball and have enough freedom to do what he should do to score. I'm talking about getting the ball in the final third of the field. Now look at what PSG did. All goals scored against Barca come from first time finishes, which means the striker doesn't have to trap the ball first. When Rin scored, look at how little pressure he has on him. This speaks to the quality of movements PXG players provide in order to stretch and distract the defense. I will even go and say that they might be better than Ubers on that front. So Charles make a pass with such a weird timing so that the defenders can't even anticipate it. Otherwise, they will have pressured Rin, as he was one of the potential targets. But also, it does help that Rin uses a straight direct shot. He doesn't need to trap the ball first. The defense cannot react in time. That's a goal. The same thing happens with Shidu's first goal. You see a pattern? In both instances, who sends the pass? Charles. From what we saw, he perfectly makes use of Shidu and Rin's capabilities and send passes that seem to always surprise the defense somehow. I mean, for Shidu, it's much more obvious since Shidu always uses weird stance to shoot. But in Rin's case, you clearly see that the defenders were slow to react. And even when the defense is not surprised, as seen on Shidu's second goal, we are back to a situation where the striker has to create space for himself. Where Kunigami did the same and failed to score once, Shidu also managed to fail, but he also scored with a header. PXG offensive power is already monstrous with Rin and Shidu. Now, with Charles supporting the players and players making runs like Ubers to create space, it's highly difficult to stop PXG attacks, and the game will prove it to us soon. However, the defensive aspect of PXG is one that I feel is mostly overlooked. First of all, for this game against Bayern München, the double pivot Tokimitsu and Karasu screams trouble. I don't see a U20 player being able to overpower Tokimitsu physically, and Karasu, the shrewd tactician, is able to see the game on a high level, able to identify patterns from the opponents. Second, the last lines of defense, the three center backs and the goalie. No matter what formation was used against Barca, either the Rin's system or the Shidu's one, Chapa, Gabin and Michelin were always the three center backs, and Renoir seems to be their starting goalkeeper. Again, this is confirmed as we saw the lineup before the start of the game against Bayern München. In order to be able to assess PSG defensive capabilities, let's see the goals they have conceded so far and the context behind those goals. Ubers managed to score 2 goals against PSG but lost the game 3-2. It is safe to assume that PXG was still rough around the edges as we both had Shidu and Rin playing at that time, and I'm not sure Loki had already developed the Shidu and Rin systems. Nevertheless, PSG was still strong as hell. Ubers, on the other hand, did not have Baru as the main striker, so it is safe to assume that their offensive power was not that high either. Seeing how the Bayern München vs Ubers game went, we all noticed that Snuffy seems to come on when his team is being dominated in order to help Ubers regain control of the game, which is what happened against Bayern München. Following this train of thought, I assume PSG was dominating Ubers and scored 2 goals right out of the bat. Rin scored 1 and Shidu scored the second. Seeing his team being utterly dominated, it will not be far-fetched to assume that Snuffy came on and helped his boys and Ubers went on to score 2 goals. After the star change system was off, Ubers' domination faded away as Snuffy wasn't on the pitch anymore and PSG went on to secure the W. So based on this assumption, we could say that PSG only conceded against Ubers thanks to Snuffy helping his kids. Weirdly enough, the same thing happened against Barca, where PSG was crushing them 2-0 and Lavino had to come on so that Bachira and Otoya could score 1 goal each. This strongly implies that the only goal PXG would have conceded so far without a master striker helping his team will be the goal scored by the Red Panther Chigiri in the PXG against Manchester City game. It is very safe to assume Chris Prince did not play that game because his whole point was to prove that he's better than Noel Noah. So I don't see him really playing in that game. And if you really assume Chris Prince played, you will think his presence on the field only allowed his team to score only 1 goal. That's too little, right? So it is really safe to assume Chris Prince did not play. Also, we have no evidence pointing towards Loki having ever used the star change system. Based on all of this, it is very safe to assume that PXG might have a tremendously competent defense. I wouldn't be surprised if Gabin, the center back in the middle, is close to next gen 11 player, or dare I say he might be a next gen 11 defender, similar to Lorenzo. It could also be that PXG goalkeeper is a monster in his own right, but my point is PSG defense might be the real deal, even better than Uber's defense, who had Lorenzo. I know a lot of this is based on assumptions, but those assumptions are not that crazy, right? They are not far-fetched. They kind of make sense. Please think about it. Drop your thoughts down the comment below. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.